Hey there, it's Alex from the Human Sapiens, and in this episode, I'll be sharing my thoughts about why I think meditation should be taught in school. And if you're listening to this anywhere outside Substack, I would like to ask you to consider subscribing if you haven't done that yet, and following my newsletter and daily notes. If you want to learn more about mindfulness and meditation, backed by science for your everyday life situations without all those spiritual woo and everything. Thank you. So yeah, I usually like to open with a question, and the question for this episode is, do you remember all those essential life skills they taught us in school? You know, like how to do taxes, manage stress, or navigate complex emotions. Yeah, me neither. That's because they didn't. Instead, we memorized the periodic table and learned about the mating habits of seahorses. And I'm not making fun of seahorse reproduction, it's very fascinating stuff, but maybe not as useful as learning how to calm your panicking brain before a math test. So here's something I've been thinking about lately. What if meditation was as natural in schools as gym class or lunch breaks? And not as some woo-woo spiritual practice where kids chant and talk about their chakras, but as a practical mental health tool backed by science that helps students focus better, like manage stress or process difficult emotions without punching walls or other humans, and make better decisions like later when you start dating, maybe not sending that angry text to your ex at 2 a.m. It's a crazy idea, right? Actually, not really, and let me tell you why. I personally didn't discover meditation until I was 17, just a year before starting university as a military cadet. But then, I wish someone had put a meditation cushion in front of my angry teenage self a few years earlier. Here's some context. I moved away from home at the age of 16. Not because I was pursuing some exciting opportunity, but because staying wasn't an option anymore. We grew up kinda poor, my dad left when I was around 7, and my mother's partner was physically and emotionally abusive to all 5 of us. This guy was like the making me work my fingers to the bone in a vineyard while he took my earnings for his alcohol addiction kind of abusive. So it wasn't a very healthy household, and the final straw was when he threw me in the back of my head with a glass from behind, and then he beat me until I lost consciousness. And of course, my mother watched the whole show like a UFC fight between Elon Musk and, insert whatever he's fuming about at this very moment without intervening. So there I was at the age of 16, fiercely, independently living at my grandma's place and carrying a Mount Everest-sized chip on my shoulder. I had a strong sense of justice since I was a kid and was ready to defend myself and anyone vulnerable at the slightest provocation, but obviously I couldn't fight off like a full-sized angry man. But yeah, if you'd like to guess what happens when you bring that energy into a military academy, I can tell you right away, nothing good, that's what. So I started working on it. After I turned 17, I discovered Headspace. And no, this isn't sponsored, though Andy, if you're listening to this, I'd be happy to accept free lifetime access for the plug. Thank you very much. I completed like 1069 sessions in Headspace, and I also did some intense 2-hour sessions at a meditation center, and I can say without a doubt that I became a different person, or like a better one, calmer one. And I'm saying that not because meditation magically raised my past or turned me into some enlightened being who floated above human problems, but because it gave me something I desperately needed, which was space between stimulus and response. When someone provoked me, I could feel the anger rising, but didn't have to immediately act on it. And when my brain wanted to spiral about my past, I could acknowledge the thoughts without being completely derailed by them. Or later in my life, when, for example, I faced a stressful military exercise like hanging upside down from a 30-meter wall with a rifle in one hand, I could focus on my breath instead of the very reasonable fear of plummeting to my death. And of course, I still get angry sometimes, and I have moments where I just can't keep my mouth shut. But believe me, I'm doing so much better than I would if I never started meditating. And that brings us to the question why I think kids need this. Today's kids are growing up in what we can only describe as a dumpster fire of attention-stealing algorithms, academic pressure, and a social media beauty contest for all genders. Their developing brains are being shaped by notifications engineered to hijack their attention, social platforms designed to keep them scrolling and comparing, academic expectations that have somehow gotten both more intense and less meaningful at the same time, and a world that's broadcasting crisis after crisis directly into their eye sockets. And of course, as a cherry on the top, we expect them to focus on algebra. And this is not about becoming Zen masters before we hit university. When I say meditation should be taught in schools, I'm not suggesting we turn kids into mini-monks who contemplate the meaning of existence while their classmates are eating glue. I'm talking about giving them a practical tool that helps them notice when they are getting overwhelmed, return to their breath when anxiety starts taking over, create space between feeling and reaction, and develop self-awareness about their emotional patterns, which is like the most important skill nobody teaches. And yes, I'll go there, it's not just about the good kids. Let's talk about something we usually avoid in these conversations. I strongly believe that meditation could help those kids too who lash out and bully others. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Many bullies are created, not born. They are often dealing with their own trauma, maybe abuse at home or other painful experiences they don't have the tools to process. Without healthy coping mechanisms, they pass that pain down to those who seem more vulnerable. It's the terrible cycle of hurt people hurting people. Imagine if these kids had a way to sit with their difficult emotions, to understand them and to process them without weaponizing them against their classmates. And that's not excusing harmful behavior, of course. It's recognizing that breaking cycles of pain requires giving everyone better tools, even the kids who are labeled as problematic. And if you're listening to this after consuming your daily Andrew Tate content, and now you're thinking, this sounds soft for the real world, let me tell you, there's nothing soft about meditation. As a military officer, meditation helped me make focused decisions when others were panicking, tolerate challenging personalities without losing my cool, and stay centered during survival training, whether that meant hanging from walls with a rifle, enduring an hour-long PT session in ice-cold water, or navigating unknown territory on an empty stomach for days. If meditation helps in military scenarios that simulate life or death situations, it can probably handle a middle school cafeteria. But yeah, that's enough about my stuff. Here's a 2 to 3 minute meditation for students. If you're planning to study later, you can do this right at your desk before you start. It's like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 focus reset kind of thing. So first, sit comfortably with both feet flat on the floor. And you don't need to sit cross-legged to make it work. Now follow this sequence. Find 5 things you can see around you. Notice their colors, shapes, and textures. When you're done with that, find 4 things you can physically feel right now. It can be your feet on the floor, the chair against your back, the texture of your clothing, or the temperature of the air, or any other million things. Now listen for 3 different sounds. Maybe you hear the hum of the lights, your own breathing, or distant voices spoiling the next episode of your favorite series. Now notice 2 things you can smell. Hopefully, one of them will be garlic bread. When you're done with that, notice one thing you can taste, or just how your mouth feels right now. Now take 3 breaths, counting silently. Breathe in, 1. Breathe out, 1. Breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2. Breathe in, 3. Breathe out, 3. Before jumping back into your work, set a quick intention, because everything works better when you do that, like focus verbally on something. Say something like, for the next 15 minutes I'm going to give my full attention to this task I want to get done. That's it. And do you see what happened? No weird chanting, no incense, no need to download an app or buy a special cushion that protects your bums from getting floor wrinkles. Just a practical brain reset you can do before tests, after a stressful interaction, or whenever you feel your focus is slipping away faster than your motivation to finish that history paper. We are getting to the end of this, and it's your turn to share. Have you ever tried meditation as a student? Did a teacher ever introduce something like this in your classroom? Or do you wish someone had taught you these skills when you were younger? Let me know in a comment and share your experience. And I'd also love to hear more about your thoughts on bringing meditation into schools. This was Alex from the Human Sapiens. Thank you for listening. Stay mindful and humane. One more quick thing. If you'd like a simple, no-nonsense guided meditation you can use before study sessions, stressful days, or anytime your brain feels like it's been hijacked by squirrels, reply with "focus please" in a comment, and I'll upload one among my first meditations to my YouTube channel. Thank you again for listening. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.